And thanks a lot, everybody. So we will start now, and we appreciate everybody your patience here, and thanks a lot for joining us in the Human Dignity as the Strategy for Reduced Inequalities session. My name is Adriana Rojas. I'm the pleasure to be your host today. I'm the leader of strategic partnerships at the Center for Human Dignity at Tecnológico de Monterrey. So we will be together here for originally 45 minutes. Now we have 40, but it will be enough time to chat and to be together during this extraordinary session. You are making us the honor to be here. So let me start presenting my colleagues. I will appreciate first to introduce my colleague Perla Salinas, who studied business administration, a master in information technology, and a PhD on educational innovation. She leads now the Office for Learning, Education, and Academic Experiences. My second colleague is Maryangel García-Ramos. She has a master on business administration, has studies in human rights, public policy, and design. She is also an activist, an advocate of disability and inclusion, and she's currently leading the Diversity and Inclusion Office. So thank you very much for joining us. And now it's my turn to share our presentation. So Tamika, thank you very much for the instructions. In the time we are presenting, we will not be able to see each other. So we will keep on until the end of the presentation, and then we return to see each one of us. So we are Tecnológico de Monterrey. We belong to the Center for Human Dignity. And thank you very much for inviting us in the Global University Coalition Seminar. In 1943, our founder, Mr. Eugenio Garza.
Sorry, could you put like the presentation in big, on presentation mode?
So in 1943, our institution, Tecnológico de Monterrey, was founded by Mr. Eugenio Garza, and he studied at MIT. And he was inspired by MIT to create our university originally with the basis of an engineering institution. With the time, we became a comprehensive university. And in that creation, from the beginning, he declared this important phrase: the respect for human dignity was and is above any economic consideration. Be tolerant of the diversities that may be found in the race, color, manners, education, or others' idiosyncrasy. So with that foundation, we kept growing, and now we became a private university with 25 campuses all over Mexico. It was until 2017 when the leaders decided to put a new strategy around the human dignity. This was the Center for Human Dignity, led by Professor Felisa Gonzalez, who made us think and rethink on the paths for human dignity, diversity, and inclusion. It was until last year when the institution also declared a new vice presidency of inclusion, social impact, and sustainability under the leadership of Dr. Ines Sáenz, who originally was the dean for the School of Humanities and Education. So from those bases, we are now creating this strategy toward 2025 on diversity and inclusion based on our values. And now, please, Perla, if you could keep on talking about this amazing experience we have had since the 1940s. Please, Perla.
Thank you, Adriana, and thank you very much, everyone. For us, it's very important to have you here. My name is Perla Salinas, as Adriana told you, and I would like to start with the purpose of Tecnológico de Monterrey. Tecnológico de Monterrey goals is to produce information capable of transforming lives. So we have 5 values that should be a guide for our decision making in all the levels. These values are innovation. We are passionate about disruption that generates value. Collaboration, together we will fulfill the vision. Global citizenship, we are working to achieve a sustainable world. Integrity, we exercise freedom with responsibility. And empathy and inclusion. People are always our priority. The Center for Human Dignity is based on the value of empathy and inclusion, and we have 3 behaviors to observe, and I will read each one of them. And number 1, we take time to listen, understand, support, and develop our community members. Number 2, we respect people's dignity, and we value the diversity of our community. That's very important for us. And number 3, we encourage compassion and learn to live in harmony with our differences. I can say that our goal is to celebrate our differences, and so that everyone in Tec de Monterrey can feel safe inside our community. So, who we are the Center for Human Dignity, and we were created to ensure that human dignity of every single people in our community is fully respected. And this is a very hard job to do. The center oversees the diversity, inclusion, and equality strategy. We promote the respect for human dignity and allows the human flourishing by doing that. And in the following slide, I would like to explain a little bit who we are in terms of human dignity. And I will start telling you that Tec de Monterrey, dignity is manifested as an intrinsic quality of human being that demands its respects in all circumstances. I mean, each human being in Tecnológico de Monterrey, we believe that is unique and unrepeatable in their own story. So it's very important for us to say that when we began to do the model of human dignity for Tecnológico de Monterrey, a group of academics gathered around started to investigate philosophical, anthropological, and sociological theories. And they reached some conclusions, and among them we have 9 key elements that we have to consider to respect human dignity. Those elements is right now in your screen. And for instance, deserving to be treated well. We all know that everyone should be treated with respect just because we are human beings. But sometimes we do not realize that we are being treated well. And sometimes we don't treat well the people around us. And this is very important to think about this element. The other one is appropriation of possibilities. We all know that we have to appropriate our possibilities, and we need to open ways for it to happen. And the other one is freedom. Each one of us is free, and this condition allows us to decide in different ways, not being forced to do something we don't want to do. It's very important to understand the context, because we know that we all come from different backgrounds, from different histories, from different circumstances, from different narratives, and we need to realize that to understand the people around us, everyone. Self-determination. A human being is able to exercise self-knowledge and self-construction. This process allows her to determine himself or herself. Equality, well, human dignity is organized like one person is always in a reference to another person. We call it the otherness, and that allows us to be in front of others in conditions of equality. Being treated with respect, dialogue with openness. We believe that that dialogue is not about just to hear but this is to be in with all our body inside a dialogue. We require that have an openness to the possibility that the other person in front of us could be right, and the autonomy and consent is another one. In the next slide, please, Adriana. We reach more than 180,000 people divided in 4 institutions at Tecnológico de Monterrey: Tecmilenio, Sorteos Tec, Tecsalud, Tecnológico de Monterrey. We are about 150,000 students from high school, undergraduate, and graduate, and they are spread in more than 50 campuses around Mexico. We have also, please, just let me say, yeah, thank you. We have also 30,000 employees, and these employees include 8,000 teachers. Now, in the other slide, we provide the service through the following structure. We have our Vice President of Inclusion, Social Impact, and Sustainability, Ines Sáenz, and Felisa Gonzalez. She's my boss, and she runs the Center of Human Dignity for Human Dignity, and she has been doing a very, very, very good job. And we have 4 offices in the center: the Gender and Safe Community Office, Diversity and Inclusion Office, Learning, Education, Academic Experience Office, and Strategic Partnership Office. Each one has, in the next slide, we can see that we have some strategic projects, and from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we have to collaborate with departments and individuals across our institution to ensure a respectful, accessible, and inclusive community. And we have some projects there and some activities to be done. Office of Gender and Equality developed mechanisms and proposed organizational change to ensure all women and men have equal opportunities and dignified treatment in educational and work field. In the next slide, we can see the learning and education and academic experiences. We generate awareness strategies and training and experience of human dignity for the members of our institution. We can see it right now in green. And strategic partnership, we create national and international strategies for linking the different local, national, and international groups, focus on building community, coordinate communication efforts on human dignity issues. And we have a lot of activities here, and Maryangel is going to talk about them right now.
Thank you, Adriana, and thank you, Perla, for this amazing introduction. So I am Maryangel García-Ramos. I am leading the Diversity and Inclusion Office here for the Center for Human Dignity. And Adriana told you a little bit about how our background came to be, how our background helped us to be what we're doing today. So it's been a work of years, obviously, and since our foundation and the basis of our foundation, our values and such. And now from last year, having a structure with a vice presidency of inclusion that actually includes us as a Center for Human Dignity there. So it's been a lot of movement. And this is important to mention because we've been trying for the past couple of years to align not only with human dignity as our umbrella for our decisions in gender equality and diversity and inclusion, but also as a parallel work with the Sustainable Development Goals. The one that we think it aligns the most with is the number 10 of reduce inequalities, but obviously we also talk about everything that we do has impact with gender equality, to decent growth and economic worth, to partnerships for the goals, and eventually the reduction of inequalities through no poverty. And I want to talk to you about, if you could help me with the next one, Adri, thank you. So what we want to talk about around diversity and inclusion is what is our vision and what is our goal around it. And our challenges around everything that we do. We know that as universities, we are probably living the same things, but in different contexts. So we probably have the same challenges with our faculty, with our students, with the context of the world in our communities. So ever since we started working on what we wanted to do for diversity and inclusion, we got inspired by the slogan or the phrase of the Convention for the Rights of People with Disabilities, that it talks about disability, but I think this phrase involves everything, and it says nothing about us without us. It makes a point around that you cannot do anything about the community without the community. So we have to create these networks and create these communities in order to have good diversity and inclusion strategies that actually work for the people that we're trying to include in our community. If they're not there, if they're not part of the dialogue, the design, the decision making, then they're probably not going to be strategies that work. And the same goes for the government. If you do stuff without the community, probably there will be public policies that suck, that are not good, that don't really work. So what we wanted to do was that, make a deep dive in what we believe is creating community. Would you help me with the next one? Thank you. So with this, there's a lot of things that we've been doing. Perla mentioned that within the Center for Human Dignity, we have two offices: the Office for Safe Community and Gender Equality, and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion that I'm leading. But at the same time, we have everything that has to do with learning, that Perla does that, and Adriana, everything that has to do with partnerships. But we're also part of like a bigger structure around tech. And we wanted to show you some of the strategic initiatives that we've been pushing on that have been working, that we believe have been working. Obviously, there are challenges around those, but that have been working around what we see as the strengthening of the community. The first one is anything that had to do with awareness, education, and experience learning in general. It's something that we see with our institutions, with our students, with our faculty, with our staff, even with our alumni. The second project, and right now is probably one of the most important, even though we had, like, in this process, the diversity and inclusion, we had first the creation of the Center for Human Dignity, then the creation of the Vice Presidency of Inclusion, and then we got inside there. We didn't have like inter-institutions, inter-schools strategy. So what we did is the Diversity and Inclusion 2025 project, in which not only us as the Center for Human Dignity, but within a lot of actors and people involved, we're doing a strategy for 2025 that's very ambitious, but it's a challenge for us working within areas to actually achieve these goals, which are going to be, we'll believe, very important in order to actually make a change in our community. Another ones, I'm going to mention some of these. Another strategic initiatives have been the sustained dialogue forums and the the diversity and inclusion committees. These are two that we will talk about later, but these are two of the initiatives that we push on in order to listen to the community, to listen to them, to make them part of what we're doing and have feedback around that. We also have our community reports. We have a transparency report around cases based on gender-based violence and discrimination. We have our annual diversity and inclusion report that I will talk to you a little bit about later. We have our learning around human dignity in 6 short courses that have been, everybody as faculty and staff so far have taken them, and now we're pushing them. It's like the ABCs of human dignity, diversity, inclusion, and gender equality, and the prevention of gender-based violence and non-discrimination, and everybody is taking those. We have our inclusion baseline, which are like guides and processes that we're making them happen. For example, how do I work together with trans communities or non-binary communities, or how do I work together, or what is it that I have to do, or what are the tools for me to work with students with autism, for example, or any kind of neurodiversity. So it's really important for us to set the guidelines and the basis for the construction of better communities with the tools for staff, professors, obviously faculty, and students as well. The next one, Adri, please. So, oh my God, this looks really small, probably, but this is a little timeline that we've done that was in our last diversity and inclusion report of the way we've come along. We'll definitely give you the link later if you want to check it out. But it's been a challenge because in this particular slide, it looks really nice, but it's been like a challenge on the way that we've been working on it. And to this day, this was our last report. We will be launching our 2021 report later this year. But one of the most particular challenge has been obviously the structure around how do we deal with diversity and inclusion from the leadership. That's one of the greatest challenges. And at the same time, how do we make students, faculty, and staff actually feel and understand and feel the inclusion around, or the initiatives that we're pushing from like a very national perspective. Campuses are alive, and campuses need obviously to do their own thing. So this has been a challenge in this little path on exactly what we do. Let's see, Adri. Also, if I'm gonna stop here, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to put them on the chat, and we'll revise them. We'll go back to them a little bit later. But I just wanted to say that before I continue. So about the diversity and inclusion report, we wanted to share this as a good practice, because in 2016, when people ask what is it that we're doing around this kind of subjects, nobody knew anything. We have more than 35 campuses around all of Mexico, including both of the universities that are part of our institution, Tec de Monterrey and University Tech Millennium, which is like a sister university. We're like, Perla mentioned, we're like around 180,000 members of this community country-wise. So everybody had their own thing on their campuses or on their schools. So what we wanted to do without a diversity and inclusion office in the first place was, okay, what do we do first? So we started mapping. What is it that people are doing. We tried to make a census on, how do people identify? There's things that we need to know about people in the first place. So that's the first thing that we do, this big mapping. And it was a big surprise. It was an amazing surprise on what we found on different campuses, on what we found of how many student groups there were, focusing particularly on these issues. So after that, we continued doing, this is the 5th year we're going to be doing it, and it has evolved. Obviously, now we have different KPIs or goals to achieve every year and surpass them and make it better. But this has been a report that is basically from the people. It's the initiatives of the communities and their campuses. Obviously, it's also, our like institutional strategies and all, but it's also the results of what people are seeing in the community. And every year we try to make it different and make it better. And this particularly last year, what we did was we involved people quoting on the report, trying to give us their own perspective on what the challenges were for next year. What do we see as, the things that are actually working on our strategies. And it has been an amazing ride. So it's obviously something that we would definitely recommend, like start mapping, start analyzing, even if it's little information that helped us to push forward to the next strategies. Some of the highlights that I could share with is like, at least on the last report, we're really excited to launch the new one, but it's coming soon. On the last report was, we had 112 mapped diversity and inclusion initiatives country-wise, which was amazing. And some of them are really big projects, and some of them are like smaller projects, but 112 was a lot of them that we mapped. We realized that we had 120 student groups focused on diversity and inclusion and different issues, from gender equality, from people with disabilities, LGBTIQ communities, socioeconomic inclusion, cultural diversity, and generational diversity and inclusion. So 120, they're a lot. So it was something that we definitely, now it's our thermometer to see, and also like taking the voices of the students in the student groups, because they're leaders in these particular issues, of what they see, how they feel. They also help us when, we're going to do, for example, forum, and they're going to help us like share it with other students. It has helped making them visible for everyone, which has been really important. Some of the other data that I could share that we didn't have measured and now we do, from 2014 to date, we went from 8% to 20% of women in leadership roles. This was obviously because we first mapped it and then we made initiatives around to push it. I think we're pushing forward to at least 30% really soon. 45% of our promotions were won by women talent. Around 47.3% of our professional students have any kind of scholarships, and we also have a really amazing program that's called Leaders of Tomorrow, which have scholarships of 100%, not only tuition, but in the daily life of students that are leaders in their communities, but have really challenging socioeconomic contexts. And to this day, we have 7 generations of this program with 1,345 students. So this is one of our signature core projects that we hope to keep growing, because one of the things that people, since we are a private university, the perception outside tech sometimes has been like, okay, only rich people go there, or only people who have privilege can access to quality education. So it's something that we've been pushing for it to change for a long time. And what we want, obviously, is to include these talents in Mexico that would never have the chance, probably with socioeconomic challenges, to study at tech. So this is something that shouldn't be happening anymore. And it's I think it was one of the most amazing projects I've seen in the university and a lot of universities. So hopefully we will continue pushing forward to that. And I wanted to talk a little about our diversity and inclusion committees. We wanted to do something around, when we started, it was like, okay, we want to listen to people, but how do we do it? It's the first time we're going to do it. Should we do it like an ERG, which is like a, affinity group, kind of like people, if they have affinity with the subject, they can just gather around and talk about these issues, or do we want something more strategic in the first place? So we made a hybrid of that. And what we did was kind of like an ERG, like an affinity group with a very strategic view, consulting view from our own staff and faculty. And we created this. We have, to this day, we have 3. We have one in around gender equality, which is women in leadership, which it's called Impulsa, like push. And it initially started on their own, to push women in leadership groups, but then it grew to creating the gender equality plan and other things. It pushed for that. It definitely was like a parallel with the he for she signing that we did with UN Women. So it was a committee that focused on that. And then last year we opened the People with Disabilities Committee and the LGBTIQ Committee. These committees don't have students in them, just faculty and staff. And what they do is they have around by semester, like every semester, meetings with the student groups around those issues. And this year we will be opening our Cultural Diversity Committee, which is huge. There's a lot of issues to talk about in that committee, and socioeconomic inclusion. What I was just telling you about, how can we get forward to that, to get to more people and actually talk about these issues, because the universities are made for talking about the big important issues. So we will be launching them this December. And all of these committees have a sponsor of our high leadership team. Each one of those members they're in charge of one of these committees, and that has been working a lot, like really good, because they're involved with us and they help us make the issues or the proposals that come from here to make them actually a reality and make them happen. So this is something that we've been pushing, and I think it's a good practice so far. If you'll ask me maybe in a couple of years, I'll tell you how this worked and the launching and the because they're supposed to last 2 years, and then we'll have new people coming in these different committees. So in 2 years, I'll tell you how this works and what were the goals that we could definitely achieve, parallel with our diversity and inclusion 2025 strategy and everything that the Center for Human Dignity does. And yeah, Adriana.
Thank you, Maryangel. I will just briefly close the presentation because we are almost finishing our time, but not without telling that also for us, it's very important to highlight the SDG number 70 partnerships for the goal, because for us as Tecnológico de Monterrey, to make community with you all over the world is the clue for the future of building something together. As a private university with more than 50% of students with a scholarship, the strategy of diversity and equality inclusion is very, very important. So we want you to be part of this strategy. We invite you to be part of us, to take our hands and to build together in this global village that once Marshall McLuhan mentioned many, many years ago. So our village is the world. So please count with us. Please take us as a partner. Please share with us your experience, and we would love to build together a much better world from now. And so here you have our information. Here you have also the homepage, our social network information for you to contact us. And we have like 4 minutes left to talk a little bit. And let me just go back to the group. I think we can see us, right?
Yeah, you're here. We could see you. Yeah.
And I think there is a question.
Okay, yeah. So I would like to take Laura's question. So to talk about the challenges we have faced in the recently time. So Maryangel, Perla, could you please give us a 1 minute answer?
Yeah. Do you want to start, Maryangel, or maybe I can do it?
Yeah, 1 minute answer, because there have been a lot of challenges. Yes, but there's been a lot. I think one of the biggest challenges when the Center for Human Dignity was created is that people didn't really truly understand, like, okay, human dignity as the umbrella for diversity and inclusion with human rights, but at the same time, we knew that we definitely knew that when we talk about diversity and inclusion, there's people who are there's going to be a little backlash around that. Some people understand the worth of diversity and inclusion, and some other people don't, and that includes leadership teams, students. So it was like pushing a culture or creating a culture around that probably existed in more campuses more than others. And also, I think with the pandemic as well, the challenge got a little bit bigger in that sense, because we tend to go to campuses, talk, people got to know these issues, and we had to figure out digital ways to actually do it. So I think it's been like, because the issue is difficult, that's what has been one of the issues, people understanding, especially leadership, and then on students and campuses around that. What else, Perla? What would you say around that?
Well, I think we have to face a lot of challenge, and for instance, in the learning, education, and academic experience office, we have to develop a lot of contents with different audiences, and those contents have to be delivered, and we have to find the best way to deliver all the contents for each of our audiences. And in human dignity, I think that we have to find points. I don't know how to tell you that. Find points where we can express ourselves through compassion, love, empathy, and also talk about gender, diversity, and inclusion, but we have to find what is common in everyone in Tecnológico de Monterrey. I think we have these challenges in front of us, and
I would also say that we're short staffed, and this happens in every university. We do a lot, and we're not so many people doing this. Um, and that is also a challenge with our structure, but I think it happens in most universities. Um, and I would also say uh, one of the biggest challenges is listening more to our community. As I said, we do a lot of initiatives to do this, but we still need to listen more to the community. We need to give them not voice because they already have their voices, but we need to give them platform, and we need to give them this visibility of who they are and the needs that they have and the ideas that they have. Because in the end, that's what makes us a very stronger community around these issues. Not only what just a couple of people think in some offices. It's about everybody. So I think that's the biggest challenge within the size of the institution that we are. That's a really big challenge. So we're still working on that, and hopefully we'll keep on getting better on what we do.
Thank you. One last question. We have just one more minute. Professor Pedro Nájera asks, how do you assure to comply all the policies you are talking about in every campus? So which particular instance will be in charge of following the issues? I don't know if maybe briefly you can give a last answer.
Yeah. So what we do, Center for Human Dignity works directly within the Vice Presidency of Inclusion, works directly with two areas. Talent and experience, which is basically everything that has to do with HR or people experiences, and everything that has to do with students that we call life. So we work together with those areas, and they're the ones who make sure that everything is kind of like downloaded on the campuses. Without those areas and also the schools, we couldn't be able to do it. Complying is also part of, has a lot of, not only because it's a comply thing and everybody has to do it, people have to understand why is it that they're doing it and the value of it. So those areas help us a lot, and also the schools. And I would say definitely that particularly some of our leaders, high level leaders, have been helping a lot with, especially in schools, our deans and our provosts, of downloading information that needs to, or for example, a new guideline, right? And they help us download those onto campuses or schools within their leadership. But without them, we couldn't be able to do it. We need definitely those areas when it comes to faculty and staff, and when it comes to students particularly, and everything around the academic intersection world around that.
Thank you, Maryangel. Thank you, Perla. Thank you, Tamika, for all the technical support. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. I just want to remember that this session will be recorded, and you can consult it after the event in the website. So thank you for the organizers of the University Global Coalition, and we hope to see you soon, maybe face-to-face. Thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone for participating. You can take a break, and then at 9 o'clock, you'll join us back at the main stage. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.